selection, the Temple Singers, Monte Filon, musical director, Martin Woods, conducting.
towards me.
Yeah.
Your tender mercy I see. Great is your grace.
tender mercies I've seen. Forever faithful to me, always, always providing for me. Great is your mercy I've seen.
How you doing, CUT? Can we just say thank you to the Temple Singers? If they bless your soul on this morning, let them hear it. Our Temple musicians, Mr. Martin Woods, and Mr. Monte Filon. Yes, the Temple Ensemble blesses us richly and deeply every week. And they give their service nonstop. But when I was away last July, actually, I had a chance to attend a worship service and not be on. Do you know what I mean by that? I had a chance to sit in the service and not necessarily be preparing for my time to speak, not necessarily be looking for ideas that I can bring back to you, but just an opportunity to just be fed. And it blessed my soul so that I just sort of think that our Temple Ensemble members give so much, so frequently, every week, week after week after week after week, always having to be on, always up to the task of ministering to each and every one of us. And so I just thought it was important and fitting that they just have an opportunity to just decompress, not be on, and just have an opportunity to come and be fed from this side of the platform. So let's hear it also for the Temple Ensemble. They'll be back next week to bless us like they always do. So you were so kind in allowing me to share, kind and patient, I should actually say, in allowing me to share with you my POT recap, that I want to ask you to indulge me again. And this time I want to talk to you quickly about the Leadership Lighthouse. Raise your hand if you've heard me say from time to time, or you heard me mention this phrase, Leadership Lighthouse. Has anyone heard that phrase before? A couple, 2, 3 people? Well, for 57 years, the teaching ministry of Christ Universal Temple has served as a light unto all humanity, right? For more than 57 years. And to continue that tradition and to expand the reach of this ministry, CUT has established what is known as the Leadership Lighthouse. Now, some of you might be asking, well, what is the Leadership Lighthouse? I rode by the gate this morning, Reb, and I saw this huge banner. I'm trying to get a little look at your shirt. I see your shirt has a little something on it. I can't make it all out, but I know it's something. What is it? I'm glad you asked. The Leadership Lighthouse is Christ Universal Temple's new community outreach organization. Its primary mission is to build, grow, and guide tomorrow's leaders today. We hear so much about many of our young people who just seem to have lost their way. And I believe that this ministry has a teaching and a message that can transform the mind of anyone who comes into contact with it. That's just my belief. The Lighthouse has been incorporated as a separate, non-religious, nonprofit corporation with its own 501c3 designation. This corporate structure allows for many advantages, including it allows the Leadership Lighthouse to qualify for grant funding. So that's a good thing. It also allows us to partner. Sure, that's a good thing. It also allows it also allows the Lighthouse to partner with other organizations that might not otherwise be able to collaborate with a religious organization. So for 20 years, Christ Universal Temple has provided mentoring services through the ACT Prep, and we have been tutoring high school age children and really preparing them to enter into college. In addition to some of these initiatives, the Lighthouse will continue the work of Project Achieve through some test preparation with the Cambridge Educational Service. Cambridge Educational is a nationally recognized curriculum with a renowned track record. It also provides us to really track and record and tailor preparation for our young people specific to their needs. So that's one of the things that we're able to do. Registration for the Leadership Lighthouse and Project Achieve is opening today. For those of you who have been saying to me, Rev, we need to be able to do something in the community. We need to be able to do something. Come to the picnic after service. You'll see a table with the Leadership Lighthouse. Find a committee that speaks to your soul and sign up for that committee, because the Lighthouse really needs Christ Universal Temple to get off to a good launch and to be successful. Does that make sense? All right, last thing I want to do is I want to introduce to you the board of directors for the Leadership Lighthouse. They're seated next to the board of directors of Christ Universal Temple, Ms. Ruby Dancy. The board of directors for the Leadership Lighthouse is Dr. Linda Coles. Please stand. Ms. Antoinette Stewart, please stand. Ms. Crystal Crockett, please stand. And Ms. Harita McDowell. The final member of that board of directors is yours truly. So just know that your church is just really looking to make the impact that God created us to make, to do our part, to be a part of the solution, and to help transform some of what we see happening in our streets, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, but it begins with the single individual. Is that right? All right, so thank you for indulging me with that. Now, we've got just a few minutes to get into this lesson, so let's see where we start. We are continuing to talk about the 12 powers, and as we have been talking about for a few weeks now, the 12 powers are our resource system that enables us to create, enhance, and change our lives. Have you heard that before? We've also said that these powers must be conditioned in order to deliver on that which they are placed within us to deliver. Is that right? Which powers are we working with today? Order and zeal. So now when we're talking about order, we're talking about the logical ability to organize, sequence, balance, and adjust. When we're talking about order, we're talking about our logical ability to organize, sequence, balance, and adjust ourselves, to adjust the way we think, to adjust the way we feel, so that we might allow this power of order to help us align our lives and our minds with the mind of Christ, or the mind of God that is within us. Does that make sense? When we're talking about order, order is also your ability to develop consciousness in its proper sequence. Repeat after me. Order is my ability to develop consciousness in its proper sequence. Now I want to hit you with something. Your sequence might be different from the person sitting next to you. Your sequence of developing consciousness may come through one avenue. The person sitting next to you, their sequence may come through another channel, through another means. So when we're talking about order, understand that we're talking about the ability to develop consciousness. Order is also your ability to put God first. Order is your ability to put God first. Many of us, because we are really smart and because we are really educated and because we have seen many things and we know a lot of stuff and we've read a lot of books and we've listened to a lot of tapes and we've had a lot of classes, we think we know, but sometimes we just don't know. And it's good to know that whenever you need to bring yourself back in order, you can start with God. Whenever you need to bring yourself back to order, you can start with God. When order is underdeveloped, it expresses as an inability to organize, balance, and make adjustments easily. Sometimes when we find ourselves out of order, we find ourselves unable to change. Say change. Change is oftentimes really, really difficult to enter into, even though we do it all day, every day. Is that right? Order helps to make change easier. When order is underdeveloped, we also find ourselves being disorganized, disorderly, and difficult. Sometimes when you're dealing with difficult people, it's not that they're bad people, it's just that they're out of order. Right? You do recognize that if your thinking is out of order and your feeling is out of order, your demonstration is going to be. So it's not that people are bad, maybe it's just that they're out of order. And when you understand that they're out of order, you can recognize and have a little more compassion for them. They probably don't want to be out of order. They just might not know that they're out of order. When order is overdeveloped, it comes off as being hyper detailed about everything. Divine order and order are not one and the same. You've heard we talk about divine order, is that right? And you also are, right now, we're talking about this discipline or this disciple of order, but divine order and order are not necessarily one and the same. Charles Fillmore in the 12 Powers says that divine order is active in my mind, body, and affairs, and all things are working together for my good. So when you understand divine order, you understand that regardless of what is appearing, everything is working together for your good. I really have to say that one more time. When you understand divine order, you are able to recognize that regardless of how things are appearing, everything is working together for your good. When you don't realize the power of divine order, you can find yourself going through things that are intended to bless you, but because you think somebody's doing something wrong to you, you can miss the blessing in the storm. You can miss the fruit. You can miss the fruit out of the difficult situation. Divine order says that all things work together for your good because all things have to work together for your God. And there's really only one God in this room. And that God shows up as a whole bunch of different looking folk. When you understand divine order, you understand your oneness in God. Now order, say order. Order is your ability to align your mind with the truth that everything is working together for your good. So when we're talking about divine order and we're talking about order, you can have both at your access, you can have both available to you and not be experiencing the benefits of either one. Order is my ability to adjust my thinking so that it may be calibrated with the truth vibrations we at times subconsciously, say subconsciously. See, when it comes to order, sometimes we subconsciously align ourselves. This is, I don't even know if I should share this with you. Subconsciously, say subconsciously. Saints, sometimes we subconsciously align ourselves. Sometimes we subconsciously use our order to align ourselves, to sequence ourselves, to put ourselves together by a belief that we hold in our subconscious nature rather than by the belief that everything is working together for my good. I'm going to say that one more time, just one more time. Sometimes we align ourselves out of order, but we think we're in order to a belief that we don't realize we have. We're allowing that belief to shape our lives, and we're having experiences that are consistent with that belief, even though the will of God for each and every one of us is absolute good. Let me show you what it looks like. You might think that you might have the belief that you have no confidence. You may have the belief that you have no self-esteem or low self-esteem. You may have the belief that you do not deserve the goodness that God has prepared for you. And so, out of order in your consciousness, you will begin to align your life, you will begin to sequence your life in a way that lines up with the belief that's giving you more of what you don't want. Divine order says that all things work together for my good. Disorder says that if I believe something that's not true, I can still have the fruit of that disbelief. That's just too bad. That's just too bad. How do I get negative beliefs? A personal negative belief, so my negative belief can result in, or my negative thought can result in a negative belief. And my negative belief will upset the natural unfoldment of order in my life, world, and affairs. So if my thinking is in order but out of order, it will connect with a feeling that is out of order but in order, and it will produce an experience that's out of order but in order. And so my experience is out of order but it's in order. What do you mean? I mean, it's working the way it's supposed to work. The thing that's off is the way I think and feel. Does that make sense? All right, let's keep going. See, it's important to remember that the process of creation, the order of creation is Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Anybody ever heard that? The order of creation is Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Now, we said metaphysically the order of creation is mind, idea, expression. Is that right? So when we say that the order of creation is mind, idea, expression, if the mind is the source of God, and if the idea is the pure impulse of the Spirit of God, and if the expression will be whatever is in the divine pattern of the idea, then I can have whatever God puts on my mind. But if I don't believe it, then I can't have it. So that sometimes the only thing that's keeping me out of what I'm created to walk in is the way I believe. When we're talking about order, it's important again to remember that in consciousness, the goal of attainment is Christ consciousness. And we can attain that by adhering to spiritual principles. Now, spiritual principle will always say this to you. Spiritual principle will always say this to you. Spiritual principle will always say this to you. It is always orderly to give faith for fear. Spiritual principle will always say to you, it's always orderly to give love for hate. Spiritual principle will always say to you that it's always orderly to give wisdom for ignorance. Spiritual principle will always say to you that it's always orderly to give order for chaos. Does that make sense? So whenever we're talking about being in order, We must bring ourselves back to the things of God in order to find and establish the order. Let me go to Zeal, because it seems like the zeal is lacking in the room right now, and maybe it's just because of me. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. So let me go to Zeal. Let me go to Zeal. Let me go to Zeal. I'm gonna go to Zeal. We're going to move from order, because y'all don't like order that much. We're going to move from order, and we're going to go to Zeal. Let's see what we can find with Zeal. Let's see if we can find it. Because zeal is my ability to be enthusiastic and passionate about a particular thing. See, there we go. I love my saints. There you go, saints. Get in there with me. Zeal is my ability to be turned on or turned up about the thing that is placed in my soul that I can do. Zeal gives me the ability to generate motivation for my consciousness development. Zeal gives me the ability to be excited about what I'm going to learn. See, when you know that you can learn, what you'll find is that which you could not do, once you learn it, you can now do it. So whenever we're talking about being excited about something, if you are not on fire about it, don't expect anybody else to. John Wesley said, if you will set yourself on fire with the good of a thing, people will come from miles around to watch you burn. The question is, what are you on fire about? What excites you? What gets your goat? What are you passionate about? Is it about other folks' business? Is that the only thing that turns you on, being able to call somebody up and say something about somebody else? Now watch this. If they're in class, in their JCI class, they're getting their lesson and learning how to be all that God called them forth to be. And if you're busy talking about what they're doing, you're missing your getting. See, enthusiasm, if we were to break it down, it would be entheos, excited, on fire with God. Enthusiasm is your ability to be on fire with God. Not on fire with gossip, but on fire with God. No. Not on fire with garbage, but on fire with God. See, enthusiasm or zeal is your ability to be turned on about what it is you came to do. See, once you know what you came to do, and once you realize the divine capacity that is within you, you have no time for anybody else's nonsense. And when you get turned on, now watch this because it's important. When you get turned on and turned up, folks who are at a different vibration can't hang with you. It's not that you don't like or love them anymore. It's just that your frequency has shot up and you all don't resonate on the same level. Listen, it's not that they're not a good husband. I'm going there. It's not that they're not a good girlfriend. It's not that it's not a good job. It's just that when your vibration or your enthusiasm takes you up, anytime you go up, it's necessary that you leave some things that were below. See, sometimes we give it away because when folks see you going up, you feel compelled to hang down. Sometimes when you feel yourself going up, when you feel yourself doing better, when you feel yourself breaking away and breaking out of those molds and those chains that had you bound, you feel guilty about leaving situations, conditions, and circumstances that don't work for you. But I got news for you. There is no guilt in God. There's only greater in God. And the question becomes, are you going to be on fire with how God is ready to launch you? Or are you going to keep playing around in the dust or in the pig pen like the prodigal son? At some point, you got to decide that I'm too enthusiastic about myself to lay in the bud. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see if we can get it. Let's see if we can get it. Real quick, real quick, real quick. And see, enthusiasm can express itself in a number of ways. Watch this. Do you remember Saul of Tarsus? If you remember Saul of Tarsus, Saul was always enthusiastic about those things that he was engaged in. Saul was enthusiastic about his persecution of the people of the way. We would call them today Christians. Saul was excited about his ability to find a good Christian to tie him up by the hands and to hit him over the head and say, you don't know what you're talking about. But one day, say one day. One day, Saul was on his way to Damascus. And when Saul was on his way to Damascus, something happened to Saul. Saul, who was on fire for what he knew, but what he learned was that what he knew was not where he was supposed to be. He was on his way. Watch it now, because you can be on the way and be a persecutor of the people of the way. Ooh, you missed that. I got to come over here and say it. You can be on the way and be a persecutor of the people who are of the way. See, when you don't understand why people are where they are in their purpose, and you think it's your purpose to get them out of their purpose. But then he has an insight. He has an insight that's so powerful that it takes his real sight and makes him blind. And then he hears this voice. Oh, you got to be willing to listen to the voice. See, when you've got too much noise happening in your life, you can't hear the voice. Part of the problem is that you won't slow down enough to hear the voice. I know your girlfriend's got good advice. I know your people that you hang out with know a lot of stuff. But until you hear from the voice, I would recommend that you not move a single solitary step. You want to hear from the voice. So Saul of Tarsus hears from this voice, and as he's hearing from this voice says to him, Saul, Saul, oh, Saul. Why? Now see, anytime somebody drops a why on you, they're looking for an explanation. The father says to him, why are you persecuting me? And he does not have a good answer. All he knows is that the way he has been trained, the way he has been educated, the way he has been thinking made him believe that somebody was against him. But what the voice says is that you are not to be a persecutor of the people who are on the way. You are to be a promoter of the people who are on the way. Who are you speaking against that you're supposed to be lifting up? No. Let me say it this way. Who are you tearing down that you're supposed to be building up? Who are you putting your mouth against that you're supposed to be speaking in favor of? Who are you persecuting that you will find just in a little while you walking the same way they walking? See, when you are enthusiastic about why God put you here, you are no mistake, you are no accident, you are not a random thought, you are God's divine being with a purpose and with awesome power, and you've got to be excited about what God called you to do. So Paul finds himself with a decision to make, except now he can't lean on what he thought he knew. Now he's got to lean on the voice of God. And when you find yourself comfortable, say comfortable. When you find yourself comfortable with the voice of God, you can find yourself excited, enthusiastic, zealous about what God is doing in, to, through, and as you. So as we get ready to close, I want to give you just one challenge. It's a challenge of enthusiasm. I want to challenge you to be an enthusiastic forgiver. I want to challenge you to be an enthusiastic forgiver. What is an enthusiastic forgiver? An enthusiastic forgiver is somebody who forgives folk who don't deserve to be forgiven. An enthusiastic forgiver is I shouldn't share this. I shouldn't share it, but I'm going to share it. 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 I'm like my mother over here, can't keep nothing. I read a letter this week. And usually, I don't read letters unless you put your name on it. If you can't put your name on it, if you can't be bothered to stand up to what you got to say to me, I won't even deal with it. But this particular time, I read the letter. And in this letter, I got to tell you, it was a little nasty. It was a little mean. It was a little short-sighted from my standpoint. And after I was done reading this letter, I couldn't help but pray and forgive whoever this was. Now, I don't know who it is. It could be you. I don't know who the letter came from, but here is what I know. My first inclination was not to be mad. My first inclination was not to be offended. My first inclination was not to trace, scan it for handprints. My first inclination was to pray. Because if that person is carrying this in their soul, they need some show enough forgiveness. If that person is carrying this, like these words are crossing through your mind when you type it on the computer. All I can do is pray and forgive because I'm an enthusiastic forgiver. But on the other side of the coin, don't write me nothing unless you're going to stand on it. You got to be willing to stand tall on what you're saying. You stand tall, we can go at it. All right? We ain't scared. We ain't scared. You scared? I ain't scared either. We can talk about it. Right? So, as we close, know that you can forgive whatever would attempt to trouble you. You can forgive whatever you think is trying to harm you. Put your mind in order and let the enthusiasm carry you through. You've got more power than you realize. God bless you.